Cool. Hi everyone, thank you for coming to our second show and tell. We're the Discovery team working on local digital collaboration. So yeah, pretty much we're working on a project to improve collaboration with local authorities. Our scope is quite big and you'll hear from the team about what we've been learning so far. For those who haven't been to one of our show and tells before, this is our team. You'll meet some of them today. We're a multidisciplinary team made up of MHCLG staff as well as DXW staff. We've got researchers paired up working together, service designers as well as delivery people. Some of these people are part-time on the project. It looks like quite a large team. But yeah, that's us. And the last thing for me is just to sort of recap on our timelines for this project. We're about to go into sprint 3 of the Discovery, which starts tomorrow, and we finish up on the 16th of July, and then before moving into an alpha phase. And this is broadly what we're going to cover in the show and tell. So we'll tell you a bit about what we've done in our second sprint, what we've learned from the research we've done with both users and stakeholders, as well as what we're up to in not sprint 2, sprint 3, that I should say, our final sprint of Discovery. I'm now going to hand over to Sam. It's going to tell us more about.
So during sprint 2, the goal was basically to address any gaps in the research based on trends. Based on trends that have emerged. So this sprint we've done loads of research, and again we've been building upon the research that has been done previously. So this sprint we conducted 16 user interviews. So far in total, 8 of which was done in sprint, first sprint and the second sprint. We also have 1 user interview to do tomorrow, which is actually a workshop in Hackney with non-digital project owners. So that should be really interesting. We also have 6 stakeholders interviews that have been completed, and we also have 4 more to do. So this is a map of what we've kind of covered in terms of the participants. So as you can see, we have a nice spread of the different councils and also the different political parties. And as you can see, it's a nice spread, and we actually sent out a survey, which is a screening survey, in order to filter this, in order to filter like who we was going to use and who was going to be suitable for the research. And the people that we wanted to focus on was the ones that were particularly focused on improving service delivery amongst the government. So we started analysing what's coming out of user research, combining this with insights from our desk research and stakeholder interviews. And we did a thematic analysis, sort of an affinity sorting. This is just a screenshot of our barriers to successful collaboration. We can point out some of the things that's on here, so capability and skills across the councils, so there's differences across different councils. You have the larger councils that are more ahead in time in terms of agile working, and then you have the smaller councils who have, no idea what agile means, and it is quite a scary thought to them. We also did a user research playback. So we did this yesterday, and this is just basically an overview of the stakeholder interviews and also the user research interviews that we've done. It just basically helped us summarize what we've done so far and helped us identify the common themes that came up. And that brings us to the next slide. So this is basically the 4 types of collaboration that we identified and the types of opportunities that occurred. So in terms of networking, so that was one of the types of collaboration that came up, which is basically knowing where to meet others who might be facilitating, so who might be facing similar challenges in terms of like building informal relationships. And networking is basically kind of the foundation in terms of like, it basically leads to knowledge sharing and resource sharing. That's basically what we found. So knowledge sharing is basically the alignment of issues and sharing approaches, research tools, practices, and the problems that they may have, and resource sharing, which is basically like resharing codes, sharing skills also, and in terms of like access to different platforms such as GitHub. And then the delivery aspects of things, which is basically working together jointly to deliver a certain outcome or solve a certain problem. So what we've learned so far, Linda?
So those these were identified in the first sprint, but we've been using them as kind of a basis of conversation in this second sprint. And you can see like how it's weighted around this side, but less so around this sort of project delivery. Yeah, and other things we've learned. So yeah, to most, when you talk to councils, they'll say to you, yeah, collaboration is the right thing to do. We should do it. It's a no-brainer. It makes sense. But most awareness of benefits centre on that learning from others and finding out what councils are doing, sort of dipping in at that when they're first starting a project to see what others have been doing. But there's less examples of this sort of project delivery in collaboration. But there were some examples of sharing resources as well, like code and websites. Yeah, another thing that's come up in a few interviews is when we ask people what they understand by collaboration, and for some of them that's not collaboration between councils. So it might be internal collaboration, but also people talked about sort of collaborating with volunteer groups on projects as well. And sort of we haven't dug into this much. We're unclear at this point about whether the problems to solve when you're collaborating with the voluntary sector might be quite different compared to what it is for local authority to local authority. Yeah, so other than this sort of networking, people are pretty good at that. They know where to go and they do a lot of sharing of knowledge. But if we're talking about sort of more sort of bigger projects, people do need help in how to collaborate. So I think our team talked a long time ago about a toolkit, and there's something around that, like people want some guidance on where to begin, how to get your outcomes to align, sort of how to help get buy-in from the top, etc., etc. And there's also something around, we've heard a challenge of collaboration being around succession. So what happens when somebody leaves? So is there something around that councils we could give some guidance on? Heard this one before, but collaboration requires time, and it's hard to prioritise this around the day job. There's definitely a lot of willingness and want to collaborate, but it's a really challenging thing to ask people to do whilst just trying to keep their head above water. This has come through loud and clear that collaborating comes around through established relationships. But there's also this extra thing we've been hearing about how when people move on to other councils, that's kind of like pollination of learning. So they go to another council and they share that information, but also they keep in contact with their last council. So there's a kind of networking that happens there to share knowledge. I can't remember when I stopped. Oh yeah, here, no, sorry. Justifying travel to visit other authorities and to attend events is a problem for councils. It's getting more difficult. So even when there's councils who do have budgets to go and do some of that stuff, it's still challenging. They're still catching up with their job in the evening. And particularly for those who are not in easy reach of London. A lot of the events are in London, and it's hard for people to get there. And the result of that as well is that locality has an impact on collaboration. So people think about the people closest to them first, often when they're thinking of collaboration. Also, they're the people they're most likely to have that established relationship with, because they'll have met with them before, because they can meet them before. And I'll pass you over. So you're going to hear Marianne's going to talk through the next few slides, and I'll move them forward. Okay, Marianne.
Great. All right. So it sounds like an obvious one, this one, but a really important ingredient to successful collaboration is for all teams to be aligned with what they want to achieve. So we heard that it's much easier to achieve what you want to if you're aligned around a common problem, and it's easier to work with people who are delivering similar services to similar types of users, and also if they're using similar tools and technology, that's another barrier that's removed as well. It also requires, again, time to be set aside at the start to really define those project goals. This is something we heard from our stakeholders as well, that it's a really important part of the project that can sometimes get skipped. So you need that time at the beginning to set expectations, really set up those goals and what you want to achieve, agree roles and responsibilities across the local authorities so you're not hitting barriers along the way. So that was a really important part. Go to the next slide. But in mentioning these barriers, there's lots of things that get in the way of collaborating. So councils have different structures, they use different tools. Some work on Google, others on Office 365. Some are quite happy to use Twitter and things like Slack. Others are really, really nervous of using things like that because they are worried about how the platforms might use the data, or they're not comfortable with the lack of control they have over what teams might decide to share on these platforms. Even things like the structure of the council can make it some people work a bit slower. So we heard there was a bit of frustration about having to work at the pace of your slowest partner. And that can quite often just lead to collaboration being abandoned. They have time pressures and responsibilities to deliver things, so you can't always go at the pace of the slowest partner. And we heard a few times around how politics can influence things. So we've heard both the stakeholders and users that the political colour can really change whether people are willing or able to work with each other. And even if you're working with the same colour, there's different shades of that colour. And that basically means there's different priorities within that authority. So they have different things pulling them in different directions. Next slide. And again, coming back to the size of authorities as well, we heard examples of where larger county authorities were trying to work with district councils. And it can sometimes be that the larger county councils can sort of move on faster than the district councils want to. And sometimes the district councils can feel like they're not having enough of a say in what's being done, and they can feel a little bit powerless and dissatisfied with a project. So we heard an example around something to do with parking, and how at the end of the project, the bigger county council had what they wanted, but the district council then had to retrofit everything that they wanted around that solution. So they weren't actually getting what they wanted out at the end of it. They weren't really happy with that solution. So go to the next slide. So we've heard a lot about networking, and it's starting to be recognised with these councils as well, these local authorities, that networking and collaborating is becoming really important. So we've heard in a few places that job titles and job descriptions are starting to change for middle management directors, executives. So it's an expectation now that's starting to come out that people need to go out and speak to these networks, learn what other people are doing, and bring that back into the organisation. And we've heard that where there are places where the chief exec and directors are bought into the idea, that they find it a lot easier to do collaboration because they're supported from the top. And this was something that we heard from stakeholders as well, that they feel it must be driven from the top down. Next slide. So even though it is clear that it's being recognised as something that needs to be done, it doesn't always filter through to the way people work. So we heard quite a bit around it being hard to work in the open. There's nervousness of being able to fail in the open. There's still quite a bit of a silo mentality going on. A lot of risk-averse habits in terms of not wanting to do the wrong thing. There are, however, other people who prefer to do something and ask for forgiveness later. But I'd say there's a lot more that we spoke to that were more risk-averse. And again, I mentioned about being unsure about new tools and data. So new tools and how data is protected, which I mentioned before, using Slack. And just simple things like getting budget released for new ventures, or to do things such as user research. We heard from a couple where they just want to do a little user research project. As soon as the project team hears that it takes time and budget, it's the first thing that might get chopped. Or things more in the short term, where if they just need to release a little bit of budget to join in with a collaborative project that will help them in the long run, they're just not able to do that because they've got these short-term responsibilities to be making these cost savings. So to go to the slide, I think that's the last one on the findings. So one thing we haven't talked about specifically is the pipeline at this point. This came up both prompted and unprompted as we talked to stakeholders and users. And I think those who had used it and were aware of it generally saw it as a good thing, as a place where people share what they're working on. But it's not necessarily seen as a place that you go to collaborate with people. There was a bit of a feeling that there's a bit of room for improvement around making it more about the common problems, smartphone connected, types of projects people are getting into. And there was a need for it to be easier to find out about relevant information. We've heard a lot about collaboration happening when the timing was right. So you pick up on things when you were thinking about that thing. So making it easier to pick up on when information is going in that's relevant for them, and helping them become more engaged and proactive in getting involved with the pipeline as well. So those are the sorts of things we heard about the pipeline. So I'm coming back to Sam now.
So we asked what are their user expectations in regards to the role of MHCLG when it comes to promoting collaboration. And these are the themes that kind of came up in research. So one of them was to kind of push the message of collaboration out there. So we had users mentioning if it was more like widely publicized, like pushing the value of and benefits of collaboration through showing examples of how it's been done in the past and how it saves local authorities some money and some time. So if that was like widely publicized and just put out there in terms of maybe having an awareness campaign, then that would kind of help put the message out there and encourage local authorities to collaborate. And also just maybe having like events, putting out events out there, MHCLG conducting an event that helps local authorities to kind of attend it, which actually promotes collaboration. And then in turn that will kind of initiate the networking aspects of collaboration, which would therefore lead into knowledge sharing and resource sharing and delivery aspects of collaboration. And in turn, providing guidance and training. So one thing that came out of user research was that in terms of the blockers to collaboration, they found that middle management was kind of a hindrance to collaboration, because often you would have to go through the middle management in order to kind of, because they are like the decision makers in terms of funding and collaborating with other local authorities. So if the people from the top, because it obviously starts from the top, and it trickles down, if those type of people actually were involved in some training and some guidance in terms of like how best to collaborate and the benefits of that, and just making them aware of the value of collaboration, then that would help to push the message out there, as well as facilitating and the sharing of resources, and also removing the blockers to collaborations. So it kind of links into widely publicizing the effectiveness of collaboration. So in terms of like culture, if we are looking at the different cultures between two different local authorities and we want to actually change the local authorities in terms of their ways of working and the different working patterns that they have and kind of aligning their visions, we would need to kind of aim to kind of remove those blockers of collaboration. So these were the main themes that kind of came out in terms of the role of MHCLG when it comes to promoting collaboration. So
So we've also been speaking to stakeholders as part of our interviews, and they got some slightly different expectations of MHCLG in terms of promoting collaboration. So these are some of the themes that have come out of those interviews. So they see that MHCLG has a role in both identifying collaboration opportunities by having a sort of bird's eye view of what's happening across the country, but also in fertilising those collaboration opportunities and actually making those things happening. When we talk about fertilisation, normally talking about money or creating other aspects of the environment that will make collaboration happening. Relationship brokering and alignment, so actually bringing people together both to like work on that shared problem, but also align around that shared problem at the start. Problem definition and articulation. So something that's come across in our research so far is that sometimes local authorities have difficulty in expressing the problem that they have in a way that another local authority can also identify having that same problem. So there's a role in the centre potentially in helping authorities to express a problem or articulate a problem in a way that we shared. And the last one there is around building capabilities, so actually building some of the both knowledge and skills within authorities to take some of these projects forward. This last section is what we're doing in sprint 3, which is our last sprint on this discovery. So Our sprint goal for the next sprint is to align on the next steps and then define and prioritise our alpha recommendations. We are going to actually demonstrate collaborative working by inviting local authorities to contribute to an alpha definition workshop. We'll be holding one in Leeds and one in London. We'll be working out the final details of that. Really, we want to involve our user community in working out what we should be testing in alpha and being part of designing that. We'll produce a report that summarises what our findings are from discovery, and that's it. Thank you.